statement that Mike just made and what Doris just made, these are examples of what took place across the state of Ohio. We basically pulled reports from 40 boards of election across the state, not all 88, getting a sample of urban, rural, and suburban counties. And looking at basically the story that was told by precinct workers, the poll worker notes. And they detail a story of machine failure, problems with provisional ballots were replete across the state. In the instance where the optical scan is in use in those counties, these provisional ballots can make their way over to the machine and be fed in. And this is, it's understandable at times there's confusion when there's heavy traffic at the polling locations. If due diligence isn't served with the envelope being accompanied with that ballot, and the person goes over to the booth and they don't come back over to the table but rather go to the scanner, the ballot judge may not even know that that's a provisional ballot. Especially if a precinct worker puts the ballot in a secrecy sleeve. That's a little sleeve that you get. And actually, that happened with me on Tuesday. I thought, hey, I'll lead by example. I'll serve the polls last Tuesday, and I worked a precinct in the inner city of Akron. And wonderful ladies that were there. It was a predominantly African-American precinct in inner city Akron by the Akron Zoo. And we had a full day. I told the ladies at the end of the day, don't pay you enough for doing this. You go there before 6 a.m., not done until after 8:30 at night. So we really do appreciate the people that work the polls. But there were a couple of occurrences that took place that day that were of interest to me. One of which, how provisional ballots were handled. Now again, this was an off-year election, so it was kind of a light duty. And we had 6 provisional ballots that day. And the one gentleman that showed he didn't have the proper ID, so she gave him a provisional ballot. He went over to the voting booth, and then she gave him the secrecy sleeve. No envelope. So we wanted to make sure they were going to the right machine because there was a precinct over there with a machine and I was attending this machine, so I waved him over. I didn't know that was a provisional ballot. And she said, oh wait, that's a provisional ballot. I said, Edna, you put it in a secrecy sleeve. You didn't put it in the envelope. No, how was I to tell that that was a provisional ballot? And so now I see how this actually happens. Well, you know, as we spoke to groups across the state in the last year, and basically why this took a year in putting this all together is it takes time to get sworn statements and to find individuals to hear their story. And the Secretary of State did say, look, I'm going to need sworn statements from these folks, not just hearsay. I said, that's what you'll get. So in your packet, you're going to see upwards of 20 statements of individuals from various problems that took place around the state. And really, look at that as a sampling of some of the problems that existed. Now, we have back on the table some of the folders with the precinct notes from the various counties. Here in Franklin County, for instance, they have had a high rate of failure of their touchscreen monitors. This was widely publicized last year on Election Day. I think out in Marion, Ohio, where people were pressing for one candidate and another candidate kept coming up. If somebody will ask them to be quiet up there. That's not a conspiracy. It's these machines are coming to a place of a higher rate of failure because their shelf life is coming to the end. These touchscreen monitors seem to be failing all around the state. So especially here in Franklin County, in fact in Cuyahoga County, you had touchscreen monitors. A few years ago they swapped them out for the optical scan. My experience with the optical scan in my precinct, it worked very well. The only problem being is the provisional ballots can make their way in there. I don't think that can happen as much with a touchscreen monitor, so there's pluses and minuses with these 2 operating systems. But we have in your packet a lady from Guernsey County. She doesn't have email, she's not on the web, she heard us on a radio broadcast and phoned in. She's 84 years of age, and she said, look, I have a story to tell. We have touchscreen monitor in our precinct, and I kept pressing every candidate down the line. The opposite candidate came up. When I went over to tell the precinct worker, she said, oh, we've been having trouble with that machine all day. Well, why wasn't it fixed? And, you know, it wasn't remedied for her. And these are some of the problems with the touchscreen monitors. And there really does need to be due diligence. The whole reason for this audit is to instill confidence in our election process here in the state of Ohio. The Secretary of State, as mentioned in our opening statement, cannot address what's not been told him. Secretary of State Form 450 is the incident reporting form, and that rises to a higher level of incident in any of these precincts or polling locations, or possible voter fraud. It states clearly that it is to be forwarded on to the Secretary of State for review. Well, in your packet you'll see a cover letter from Medina County that had a short stack of these incident reports, and some of which our sworn statements were in there, and they said after review we didn't see anything in here that we deemed necessary to forward on to the Secretary of State. You know, the boss can't address an issue that he's not been told of. And I don't understand why Medina did that, but they need to forward those forms on to the Secretary of State. Then you have Van Wert County. When we requested poll workers' notes, incident reports, they provided none. And the one lady said that she had worked at the board election out there for over 20 years. I said, well, what do you do when someone calls in a concern during the day if there's a problem? She says, well, I handle that. I have a little notepad here next to the phone, and I'll take down the notation. I said, well, can we have a record of those notes? She said, well, I throw them out at the end of the day. Well, there's to keep these records, really, as to show what went on, and so for, not only that, how about for the board's review? The Board of Elections review locally needs to see what took place and transpired on Election Day. And out in Van Wert County, and you'll see the testimony there, two people that submitted sworn statements. The one gentleman had already voted early, but was accompanying his daughter to the polling location. She'd liked him to do that. And he's standing in line, and they're trying to pass him about. He said, wait, if you look closely in your book, you'll see that I already voted. But she was already marking off the ballot. You know, they registered the number ballot. And he says, look, I'm not asking for a ballot. I'm here to assist my daughter.